Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Brad and this is TrailRecon. And on this episode, we are upgrading our worn out tie rods with new chromoly heavy duty Synergy tie rods. You know, 2 weeks ago, I was out on the trail. We were out there at Terre du Sol having a great time wheeling. And I kept hearing this knocking noise coming from underneath the Jeep. And I'm pretty good about every month, you know, going through and checking all my bolts and making sure everything was tight. So when I got under there, I was like, man, what's going on? And well, when I finally got to the tie rod, I realized, yep, these are worn out. And it's not something that I had really been paying attention to. You know, I focused a lot lately on Project XJ Overland. That's kind of where all the resources have been going. And I haven't been giving enough attention to the JK. Well, today we're going to fix that. You know, when you put larger tires on your rig, like our Cooper 315s, and you're off-roading a lot, you know, you're putting wear and tear on all your suspension and steering components. So it's really not surprising that we wore out these tie rods. Tie rods are really important because, you know, they kind of help and push and pull the wheels when you're steering. Plus, they help adjust your toe angle, and so where they sit is right in front of that axle. And if you take a big hit on your tie rod, you're going to bend that and you can actually mess up your toe and mess up your alignment. So this new heavy duty tie rod that we're installing is going to really help us, one, fix our problem, and two, strengthen things up for us. Now let me show you what we got. Let's go take some pre-measurements and then let's do this install. What we are installing today is Synergy Manufacturing's chromoly tie rod, part number 8002 for the Jeep Wranglers years 2007 to 2017. This tie rod is 1 3/8 inch chromoly 4130 steel, and they claim it is 200% stronger than stock. It has a powder coated finish and is purely bolt-on. Also included with the kit are 2 springs that go around the rubber boots on the tie rod ends, a pinch bolt, some cotter pins, and a good set of instructions. The Synergy directions suggest to place a piece of tape on the center of your front tire at the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock position, and then take some measurements from wheel to wheel. Your 3 o'clock measurement should be just slightly less than your 9 o'clock measurement if your tires are towed in properly. We'll use these measurements again when we are done with the install to make sure we're all good to go. We also took a measurement from one end of the tie rod to the next end, and this is just another way to make sure that we're all squared up, but we will be doing an alignment when we're all done. This just gets us pretty close. Now you can see here just how loose that tie rod is. This should really be nice and stiff and firm and shouldn't be knocking around like that. The first thing we did was pull off the bolt that's holding the steering stabilizer shock onto the tie rod. And then using a 21mm socket, we pulled off the tie rod bolts on both the passenger and driver side. Now sometimes, if you're lucky, a couple good whacks on that tie rod knuckle and that tie rod will just drop right through, but we weren't so lucky. And I've had this small tie rod puller in my toolbox for a long time. I've actually never used it for pull tie rods. I use it for a bunch of other stuff, but you can pick this up at your local auto parts store for about 20 bucks. These things are great. You just slip it over that knuckle and then start clamping it down and it'll push it right out. And that's it. Removal is a breeze. Now let's go put them side by side and let's take a closer look. Now when you set the old one next to the new one, there's not a huge difference, but remember, this new one has a stronger metal. But there is a noticeable difference in the knuckle and the bolt on the tie rod. Plus, the Synergy tie rod end is greasable, which means we can maintain this for a long time. And you can see here, with just 2 fingers, I can slide that old tie rod side to side. The new one, I can't even budge with 2 fingers. Now, I decided to cheap out and reuse my old stabilizer bracket. I spoke with the customer service over at Synergy and they said it would fit, but getting it off seemed to be a little more work than I kind of expected. Taking the stabilizer bracket off requires removing the tie rod end. So I tried heating up that tie rod end and using some good old elbow grease to try to get it, and it was not budging. So I did just about what any other civilized man would do. I broke out the Sawzall. I wasn't planning on using this again anyway, right? And then the bracket just slid off. Amazing how that works. Now, a new bracket will run you anywhere from 50 or 60 bucks, and to do it all over again, to go through all that hassle, I probably would have just spent the money and bought a new bracket. Now these springs that go on the base of the rubber boot, they're a little bit of a pain, but a little patience and stretch it out pretty good and you'll get it on there. Now we used some of those measurements from early on to kind of get a rough estimate on how long this should actually be. Installing it's pretty easy. You just pop it up there and throw the castle nuts on. Then using the supplied cotter pins, put it through the hole in the tie rod end and just clamp it around that castle nut. And then next what we want to do is push the steering all the way to the passenger side. And this is going to give us the right geometry to hook up the shock stabilizer. Now you want to compress that shock stabilizer all the way in and then let it out about 1/4 inch. And that's about where we're going to set up our clamp and tighten it down from there. And this really makes sure that when we turn the steering wheel all the way to the passenger side that we don't bottom out that shock. And then we turn it to the driver's side, we've got plenty of flex in there. Now using that adjuster nut, we're ready to set our toe angle and kind of get our measurements fine-tuned. If you turn this towards you, it pushes the toe angle of the wheels out, and if you turn it away from you, it brings it in. So we had to do that a couple times just to get our measurements right, but eventually we got it kind of back to where we were. Once you get everything dialed in and your measurements are right, using that supplied nut, throw it in that pinch bolt and clamp it down to lock everything in. The last order of business is get out the grease gun and attach it to those Zerk fittings and fill those tie rod ends full of grease. And since we just modified our steering components, if you're a little OCD like me, you want to go over everything at least 2 times just to make sure you didn't miss anything, because the last thing you want to do is have a problem going down the road. I have a lot of friends that have raved about Synergy's products, and now I can say with honesty, it is good quality stuff. So it is the next day, but not because this is a long, lengthy install. You can actually do it under 2 hours. But I actually had to meet up with my buddies to go do a night run last night and had a blast out on the trail. And I will say that I really noticed a difference in the steering and the handling with this new upgraded tie rod, especially on the freeway. However, after getting under there yesterday and doing this install and taking a look at my drag link and being on the trail last night, my drag link is worn out just like the tie rod was. So this morning I ordered a new drag link and I'll be installing that here soon. And I will leave links in the description, guys, so you can go check out the drag link and the tie rod that I'm installing on this and consider if that's an upgrade you want to do. You know, if you're running larger tires, this is really an upgrade that you do not want to neglect. Hey, if you're visiting this channel for the first time, man, we'd love to have you as a member of the TrailRecon team. We've got all kinds of videos, off-road, install, rig walkarounds with owners that we think you'd really enjoy. So hit that subscribe button, join us for a ride. Until next time, we'll see you on the trail.